Hiya, everyone, and welcome to my new show, Out of Nowhere. Um, well, we've got a terrific guest on my show today. I think the last time I spoke to her must have been 5 years ago. It seems a hell of a long time. I don't know why Alison hasn't been on before. So my guest today is the Reverend Alison Dunlop Shays. Alison is a
Thank you.
reverend, a paranormal investigator, exorcist. She's appeared on TV and radio, and also she's got her own radio show, ADX Files. Can we please welcome Alison to the show? Hello there.
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for inviting me on. It's a pleasure and an honour to be on your new show.
Oh, and thank you so much for wanting to come on the show as well. Just give us some background about yourself and your family.
Well, I come from Ayr. It's in the West Coast. Um, my paternal grandmother and great grandmother rather was a spiritualist, and I didn't know this until I started going to the spiritualist church, and then my dad told me. Um, I mean, my gran, her daughter-in-law, used to go to the spiritualist church with her, but my grandfather didn't like that too much. He would have prophetic dreams that he didn't really discuss very much, if at all, really didn't, because I think they were bad prophetic dreams, so he just didn't discuss them. My gran did things like reading tea leaves and stuff like that, you know. But that's basically my background.
Oh, yeah. What made you write the book, The Mystic Visions?
Well, I think that I had so many experiences over the years. I have been heavily involved in the paranormal and ufology for quite some time now, doing radio shows and co-organising the Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference with Malcolm Robinson and Ron Halliday. And it was kind of about time, you know. Everybody was saying to me, you know, you really should get a book out, you know, write a book. So eventually I thought, well, I do write. It was just a matter of, well, what will I write about? And I thought, well, you know, should I focus on just one thing that affects me? But that wouldn't have been a book, you know. So I decided to write about as many different things as I could think, you know, that I could remember, to put in the book. And yeah, that was really why. I just thought maybe it was maybe important to write these things down. I suppose it's a kind of a legacy in a way, you know, that I don't have any children, so who do I pass all these stories on to, you know? And I felt that perhaps if I put it in a book, it might inspire people or help people or just interest people who were involved in the paranormal as well, and ufology too. Maybe give them some answers, or maybe make them think about things in a slightly different way. Because, you know, there was experiences in there that really made me wonder, they kind of blurred several things, blurred the line between alien and the demonic in some cases. There was there was like the incubus experience that I had and that I've spoken about many, many times, and probably spoke about it on the last time that we talked. And it wasn't until 14 years later when I was talking to James Welsh at a conference, and he'd had a lot of sightings over Glasgow leading up to the millennium, and showed me this photograph of a plasma. He said he described it as a plasma light, and that he had seen above Glasgow. And he did a sort of a Photoshop thing, and it was basically described it as a blue plasma light. And when he showed me the photograph, it was above my flat where I stayed in Tory Glen. It was the same month that I'd had my incubus attack. And he said that, and also when I was having this attack, I was seeing a blue light, a strange blue light in the room. And that, again, that matches up with him saying it was a blue plasma light. I mean, you can read about that in his book as well, Corroborating Evidence. This blue plasma light imploded, according to James. It just imploded. And that, as I say, I can't match up the dates because I don't know the actual date that I had my attack, but it was in the same month, and there was the blue light that that he mentioned and that I saw. And yes, sleep paralysis was involved, but it's not that I refuse to believe that sleep paralysis is the answer, because if the evidence for that was given to me, I would say fine. But I think that sleep paralysis is taken advantage of while you're in that state, while you're in that vulnerable state. You're taken advantage of by entities, whether demonic or extraterrestrial. I mean, I guess it depends.
Yeah, I just wanted to
go on.
I just wanted to ask you something about demons. Are demons attracted to vulnerable people then?
Absolutely, without question. I think that they are, in the first instance, attracted to people who perhaps live alone. I think that that's one aspect. People who are depressed or under a great deal of stress, and at that, when I had my demonic attack, I was under a great deal of stress at that point. Later on, other things that have happened to me, like there was an entity that somebody left in my flat, and that was when I lived alone, and it also attacked me, and that was when I did the exorcism in my home. But I lived alone then. I think another thing that is taken advantage of is illness. And for much of my life, I have been ill. I've had 2 kidney transplants. I was on dialysis once. The second transplant was preemptive.
God.
transplant, you know, before I needed dialysis. But I was extremely ill. I've had repeated infections my entire life. I've had septicemia. I have asthma. I have high blood pressure because of the kidney transplant stuff. Lots of things. And I think that possibly makes me, and I know that not everybody who is ill is going to experience all these things, but I think that is one thing in particular that makes me a bit more vulnerable, a bit more unique to receive things like that, because at those points you're closer to the other side, you know, and you're fragile.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, does our body sense we are in danger and find a way to wake us up with a warning then?
Yeah, that is something that I've thought about as well, that it could be a warning, because in mythology, not all demons were like evil, you know, or they had another purpose. They had a double purpose. Like Pazuzu, who's been mentioned a lot. Everybody knows who Pazuzu is if they've watched The Exorcist. That's the demon in The Exorcist. But Pazuzu in ancient times was thought to be so powerful and so frightening that he was used in, they would put little statues above doorways in order to scare off other demons. So he was used in that context as a protector of the household, a protector from illness was one of the main things. So, you know, it could be that sometimes our body does wake us up. And in this, we perhaps see something we're alarmed by, and we know that something's going on. It could be a hallucination to make us notice, you know.
What about psychic attacks then? Does that happen as well around vulnerable people?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. If you're talking about psychic attack, like from like people to people or from spirit to people, which do you mean? Do you mean from people to people?
Yeah.
You know, because
or
you know, somebody could wish you ill, and because they wish you ill, because they send out that vibe, it has an effect, you know. So, sorry, what was the question again? I'm being distracted here by lots of other things going on.
all right, about being a attack and defense.
Yeah, okay, so there's lots of ways, I suppose, that you can defend yourself. Number one is to get enough sleep for a start, because when we don't get enough sleep, that's when you tend to you tend to have sleep paralysis if you have insomnia. So that's one thing. I would say, but I mean, this is just from my point of view, and obviously I'm going to say this, is that our connection to God is a very important thing. whether or not, I mean, I guess, like, if I was faced with an atheist who said, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm under this attack, and I don't believe in God," um, but they understand that something, would you say, something evil is affecting them. That's something that they do believe in, you know. And if you believe in evil, well, surely you believe in the power of good. So whatever that is, whatever that connection is, you can draw upon that, you know. And powerful forces to draw upon would be, I mean, obviously God in the first instance, Jesus, Mary in particular is extremely good to call upon for any kind of psychic attack, whether it's from an entity or whether it's from a person. Because of her energy.
Yeah,
Go on.
yeah. What about I'm going to say, tell us a little bit of exorcism. Have you been involved with any of that?
Yeah, I've done one house exorcism, and I've done 2 exorcisms on with the same person. The house exorcism was fairly straightforward. In all cases, I've used the Roman ritual. The house exorcism involved, I guess it was kind of a combination of both pagan and Christian, because I used the 4 elements. I used salt. I blessed everything. I used salt. I used holy water, which was from Carfin, which is a place near Glasgow that's dedicated to Our Lady of Lourdes. I also blessed it as well. And incense and a candle. So this all takes a lot of time. And as you're doing this, you're just calling upon these holy forces to come and help you. And it's the same with the exorcism with the person. The first time, she just felt really very relaxed afterwards, and her body, there wasn't any manifestation, but her body, she moved easier. You know, she could stretch and she could move, whereas before she couldn't. So it actually had, you know, some kind of miraculous healing effect. The next day she was walking without her crutches. Now that reverted, as it usually does, as it's quite known to do. The second time that I did the exorcism, the demon did manifest. And I did manage to, she did expel the demon. She did expel the demon, and she could no longer feel it in her body at all. And she was walking upright, back and forward. You know, she was doing great. And but that only lasted for several days, and then the demon was back with her. So some people, it takes a long, long time to get rid of that demon, you know, because they are vulnerable in some way.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the moment, what I'm doing is just trying to, I've started this Glasgow Pilgrims, and it's just to go around all the different churches in Glasgow We've got some beautiful, beautiful buildings here, but also to help people, should they want to make that connection with the divine, because it really is a very, but I know that this is a very personal thing and it's not going to be for everybody. But should you need that, it can be very, very profound, and it can have very miraculous healing results. Just not all that long ago, I was in the St Mary's Episcopalian Church on Great Western Road in Glasgow. Beautiful church. And there's something very special about it. There's definitely something very special. I've had experiences in there. The first experience I had when I was thinking about all sorts of things that were going on in the world, you know, crazy stuff, wars and things like that. And someone came to my side and said, as long as you're here, you don't need to worry. And this was a message from Spirit. And another time that I was in there, when I went in, this is the thing that happened recently. I went in and my head started like really hurting. You know, it was really thumping headache. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I went down for communion, because in the Episcopalian Church, you can get communion. It doesn't matter what religion you are. And I went down for communion. Now, by the time I got back to my seat, my headache had just vanished, completely vanished, so quickly that it was quite it astonished me. It astonished me that it had happened so quickly after having the wafer and wine. I don't know that I can explain that in any other way other than they've put painkillers in the Eucharist, you know. But I did. I was standing there going, is there paracetamol in that or something? What just happened? You know? But yeah, I mean, I discussed that with my bishop just a little bit, and we talked about whether you believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. That led me on to doing some research on Eucharistic miracles, and there are some interesting Eucharistic miracles out there. So I put that into I've got a new radio show, Candle in the Dark, that's on Sunday at midnight. And I put that's one of the shows that's on there. Yeah, I find all these things so fascinating. You know, the sort of supernatural side of religion is something.
Yeah, I know Steph's got a question here as well. She said, I know someone who suffers with schizophrenia who says they are being attacked by spirit demons. I was doubtful at first due to their condition, but then I have witnessed these very strange things. And then she goes on to the next one. Continue. It actually happened to her. Birds would just randomly just start swooping at her. Also, strange electrical effects, then turning things on.
That's interesting that the electrical effects. But yeah, so there's a couple of things to that comment. I think that demons can take advantage of people who have mental health problems. I think that they can also cause them, and be responsible for them and make them worse. And just because you manage to get rid of someone's demon, it doesn't mean that you're going to get rid of their mental health illness. That might still be the case. So those two things are separate, but they're very similar. And so one can often get not misdiagnosed, but forgotten, for want of a better word. While you might treat the schizophrenia, but then they don't treat the supernatural element. So that's one thing. The electrical effects, I've known that to have happened with a few people. It used to happen with my dad. He didn't have any like demonic things or any mental health problems, but he couldn't wear a digital watch. The TV would change channels when he walked past it and things like that. He emitted a great deal of electricity from his body, and I sometimes do as well. I was sitting at my laptop one night and completely out the blue. Now, I don't know right enough if this was an electrical thing, but one side of my hair, it just went like that. and it just stood right up. And it really freaked me out, actually, because I was sitting on my own, and so I just went like that and flattened it back down, and that was all that happened. Now, I mean, that could have been a spirit being playful. I don't know, but certainly I do get like the electric shocks when I touch things. That could also a lot of electrical don't know what to say, like electricity in the body could be why the birds are going for this person. It could be like attracting them in some way, and that's why they're swooping at them. It could also be something to do with the schizophrenia, because what's going on in the brain, that's all electrical impulses. That's all attached to the nerves and all that. So that could all be very linked. I could see why that might be happening. To pop light bulbs and turning on lights.
Steph is. Yeah, she would pop light bulbs when turning on the light. One time, like a lightning type energy came down from the bulb that she turned on.
Very strange, isn't it? Yeah. There's obviously some kind of electrical magnetic thing going on there. That's really, really interesting. I mean, I had another friend who he would come out his car, and when he would like walk to his house from where he'd parked his car, the lights in the street would go off as he passed them until he got in the house, so he was having to walk in the dark.
Right.
And because these lights would go out. So whether or not that had anything, like, he also has a mental health issue, so it could be that he was emitting a great deal of electricity, and that's what put out the lights, rather than a supernatural force.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. I'd like to, I think it's great. Astral projection and time travel. Can you tell us a little
Mm,
bit more about that?
okay. Um, well, what happened with me was it's a really strange thing. I had I'd experienced astral projection. I'd been trying to do it for a long, long time, and suddenly it's just a case of saying to yourself to remain calm. You have to remain calm because as soon as you start stressing, it can stop it, you know. So I had to tell myself, you know, just keep calm when I felt my body, you know, rising. And then I was just zoomed into space. It was like in an instant, I was in space. Um, and all the stars, it was like a black sky and white dots. That was all it was. There was no, I couldn't see any like colors. It was just all white dots. And I thought this was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing because I had actually managed to do it. And after a while, I decided, well, what am I going to do? I've achieved astral projection. What am I going to do? I'll go back down and I'll go about Glasgow and have a look at things, you know. And I ended up going to a friend's house who, through the lies of another person, wasn't speaking to me, hadn't spoken to me for many, many years. And that was unfortunate. Um, and the first time there was no response. They actually closed the door. When I knocked on the door, they opened it and then they closed it again. The second time, I was at that point very drawn to going to them. Like I was in a bit of a panic about it, and when I got to them, I was trying to. I didn't know why I was doing it really, but I was trying to waken them up. It was nighttime, they were in bed, and I was frantically trying to waken them up. And not long after that, I was back in touch with the person. We made up, we discussed the lies that had been told, the misunderstanding, and we became friends again. And he told me that in the, I don't know, 14 years or something since I'd last seen him, that 5 years previously, roughly 5 years previously, he had had a stroke. And what had happened was he'd woken up in the middle of the night, he was being woken up, bedclothes being pulled off him, and he realised that something was wrong. So he got out of bed and he went and called an ambulance straight away. And when he got to hospital, he was told he'd had a stroke and that if he hadn't have got there as quick as he did, he would have died. Now, when he told me this, my face just went chalk white, you know, because it was the exact scenario that had happened when I was during the astral projection, that I'd experienced all of that. And, you know, but that, my astral projection had only happened like a couple of months before this. But his stroke happened 5 years ago.
Oh,
Well,
right.
it's more than that now, but at the time it was 5 years previous. So
Yeah.
there was there was like, it was the same, but there was a huge time gap. Now, it was either that I picked up that psychically and saw something, or it was that I had time traveled. And if that's the case, then many people say that in the astral plane, time and distance mean nothing. They mean nothing. That you can travel anywhere in time and space. So that was my experience anyway, and yeah, that was it.
I want to talk about a bit synchronicity, where precognitive or curse, when things happen time and time again in some places. Like, I think there were Paris, Lockerbie.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, so I'd started receiving these visions when I was on dialysis. The vision, it wasn't really so much a vision as I just knew it involved New York and Paris. These two places were involved, and I didn't want to go there until whatever it was happened. I didn't want to visit. Because I knew it was something bad. And I told a friend, and she said, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I don't know why it's in my. I feel it. I feel it. I can't. It's not like I'm not seeing the words Paris and New York or anything like that. I just know. I just know that it involves them, but I don't know what it is." That was when I was on dialysis. That was 1995. That would have been. So about 3 months before 9/11, I started, like, I was living in a high-rise flats at the time, and I started seeing planes coming through the window and thinking, this was in my mind's eye, obviously, and I was thinking, I wouldn't stand a chance if a plane came through that window. And then I would think, why on earth are you thinking that? You know, what is a silly thing to think? But I would catch myself again and again thinking this and looking out the window and looking across other high rises and seeing planes going into them and saying to myself, the people wouldn't stand a chance if a plane went into those buildings. And I would say to myself, Alison, stop thinking about stuff like that. It really would just come into my head, and as I say, that was 3 months later was 9/11 happened. A similar thing happened with the Paris attacks. I was sitting and I saw this bullet-shaped bomb. That's the only way I can describe it. It was like a large bullet coming through the window. And I could see a domed city, because I thought to myself, right, okay, this must be a vision, because by that time, because of 9/11, and thinking that must have been a vision that I'd been having. At that point, I thought, okay, let's tune into this. What else am I seeing? And I could see a domed city, and at that point, I'm thinking, is it Rome? That was the one that immediately came to mind, Rome. And the bullet, is the Pope going to be shot? Those were the two things that came into my head. Now, straight across from me were two pictures on the wall. One was the Sacré-Cœur and one was the Eiffel Tower, both in Paris. They were right across from me. And it was the next night, the next day, that the Paris attacks happened. So that was those two. Other things have happened, even within the family, as you mentioned there, Lockerbie. My aunt and uncle used to stay. Yeah, they used to stay in like they lived abroad. I think it was the Sudan that they were in, or Saudi, and they came across and they decided they were going to open up a hotel somewhere. They found a hotel they liked. They wanted a rural location. They found a kind of a rural location, and the place that they went to was Lockerbie. And they were there when the plane hit, and they were okay, but they did know people who died, who used to come into their hotel. So that was another one. We were on me and my family, all my family were on the Herald of Free Enterprise, not on the day that it sank, thank goodness. But we were on it. We were on it at one point. Lots of other. There's lots of things that.
What about the forest fires in Canada?
Yeah, the forest fires. Yeah, my mum and I arranged to go to Canada, and it just before we went, the forest fires in Canada happened, because when we were there, we went on a glacier. There was this tour of a glacier, and there was a sort of a river, and you were allowed to very carefully to hold each other's hands to lean down and take some water, and you could taste the smoke in the water. It was smoky water.
God.
Strange, yeah. The same happened when I was going to Barcelona, and we thought the flights were going to get cancelled because the volcano, whose name I must one day learn, but it's a big long name, in Iceland, it erupted, and they were cancelling all these flights. Going to Singapore, that was another one. It started snowing, and the plane was cancelled until the next day. So it's like every time I go away, I went away one time, and wasn't even that far, but I went away one time and my grandfather died. In fact, both my grandfathers died when I was away, both of them.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know. Just little strange things like that, and I don't know if it. I mean, I don't place much belief in it being a curse. I don't know if it's more something precognitive, being drawn to go to a place, but you don't realize why you want to go there. It's just.
There were another thing. There were another thing about Mexican swine flu.
Yeah, I was going to go to Mexico, and the swine flu. Remember the swine flu that broke out, and because of my immune system, I couldn't take the chance of going. So I rebooked that, and I decided to go. That's when I decided to go to Singapore. The plane, as I say, was cancelled to the next day, and I came back with a superbug, an ESBL infection that took months to get rid of. And I'd been extremely careful, like drinking only bottled water and stuff like that. I was really, really ill. I had to get intravenous antibiotics, and I
Oh
they
God.
made you loopy, you know, like forgetting conversations and things like that. Yeah, so I had to stay with my mum. She had to look after me, and rather than stay in hospital, just take me up and down to the hospital to get the antibiotics. That went on for like 3 months. It was really, really not very nice. So it didn't matter that I didn't get the swine flu, but I got something else instead.
Oh God. Oh my God.
Yes, I know,
Things happen
exactly.
to
Oh my
you.
God. I know. I know. I don't know what's going on.
I just want how long we've got? About 15 minutes left.
Okay.
I think UFO sighting. I think this is Karen Valley UFO sighting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we were on a Skywatch, and we had waited all night. We had been looking at the stars and discussing what each star might be, because we really didn't know. We weren't astronomers, you know. And there
No.
was one that was particularly bright, very bright, and it was a sort of an orangey colour. And we had commented on it, and I'm saying, well, it's not Sirius, because Sirius is not orange, and that is most definitely orange. And it wasn't one of the guys went away. I don't know, it was maybe about 4:45 or something like that. He went away, and so there was only, let me think now. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so there'd been 6 of us. One went away, so there was 5. And I had been doing CE5. CE5, if I'm sure your listeners will know exactly what CE5 is. Human initiated contact with extraterrestrials. So I had been in the car meditating. I don't do the I actually don't know anything about the Greer method, so it wasn't that I was using. I was just using my own sort of chakra thing.
Yeah.
I connected with the entity that I had seen in a previous experience. And that previous experience was that when I woke up, and there was like a platform circle on the ceiling with this being, this man was looking down at me. And when he saw that he had me, when he saw that I saw him, he said to these other beings, "We've got her. I've got her." And they all came over, and one of them said, "You have to tell people about me, about us. You have to tell people about us. You have to promise that you'll tell people about us." So that entity, this is kind of goes back to what you were asking about demons and aliens, because
Yeah.
and angels, because I found it quite difficult to differentiate like what exactly these extraterrestrial beings were. I I couldn't put my finger on it, you know. Anyway, I connected with this being. I gave him the name Gabriel, and I connected with him, and I said to him like that, "I've brought people here to the Karen Valley. Can you show them something, anything?" And he nodded that he would. So I got out the car, and I looked to the left. Now it was really dark, and if you looked down to the left, you looked to the right, you could see some houses. If you looked down to the left, the road just went into pitch blackness. And out of
Yeah.
that pitch blackness, I saw this grey emerge. Again, this was a psychic image. And I said to the grey, I've brought some people here and we would like to see something. And then I shut off that communication because greys don't have a very good reputation. And, you know, if you're not really sure who you're dealing with, that area later, by the way, I found out that area had sightings of supernatural beings like fairy folk. So it might not have been a grey, it might have been a fairy for all I know. It might have been one of the fae that I saw. But anyway, it was just after that, we're standing talking, we're thinking, shall we just go or what? And I'd got out the car and I was facing the reservoir. And I said, that's moving. That the orange thing's moving. And we realised it was a lot closer than we had thought it was. And it was sort of sparkly and it moved in like a kind of a ziggy-zaggy motion. And it came round the reservoir. And by this point, we realised that's actually not that far away at all. And then we watched it going over the hills and out of sight. So we don't know what that was. When I spoke to, is it Kevin Goodman? I think that was. And he said it sounded very much like an amber, what they call down in Warminster, an amber gambler. So
An amber gambler.
An amber gambler, that's what they call them down there. So he recognised that as something that they've seen down there as well, which was interesting. But Gabriel came again. I connected with him at the A70 incident where 2 men were abducted, and I went there with a group of people and with one of the men who was telling everybody about his experience, Gary Wood. And I connected with Gabriel there, and that was it's another reservoir. Oh, Harper Rig.
Harper Ring.
Yeah, Harper Rig. And Gabriel was not happy that I was there. He said, what are you doing there? And this is a place that it does have a lot of strange things happen there. People have seen a lot of strange things. And there's you can see this strange energy pulsing off the mountains. Now, only one other guy in that group, Mark Anderson, could see that. Only me and him could see this energy pulsing. Nobody else. We asked everyone and no one else could see it. And yeah, very shortly afterwards, we decided to go. So yeah, because Gabriel said, I'll see to this. I'm going to get you out of there, or words to that effect. Also, while I was in that meditation, there was this really high-pitched screech, but it was only in the car. The other girl who was with me, she could hear it, but they couldn't hear it outside. Because we asked when the other girl came back in the car, there was 3 of us like in the car together, we went to Harper Rig together, and we asked her, was there a high-pitched screech when you were out there? And she said no, but we heard it in the car. It was like, when you hear in the distance, like a car, the screech of a car brakes.
Screeching.
Yeah, it was that kind of screech. And while I was in the meditation, I said to my friend, "Can you what is that noise?" And she said, "Oh, it's not just me. What is that noise?" So we both commented on it. And as I say, Gabriel, I guess my guardian angel, whatever you want to call him, wasn't happy about me being in that place. And he said, I'll deal with this, or something like that. And just after that, the other girl got in and she said, oh, it's too cold to stay here. Let's get going. It's, everything's over anyway. So that was it. We just left. Yeah.
Right, yeah. We've just about come to the end of the show. Alison, where can people find you and where can they get your book from?
Okay. Well, my book is on Amazon. It's called Mystic Visions. People can email me at spiscotland@gmail.com. I've got a couple of websites, alisondunlop.com. I'm on Mixcloud as well. I've got some shows on Mixcloud. So it's mixcloud.com, Alison, /Alison-Dunlop. And I've also got my new website, RevAlisonDunlopShanes.com. So if you're interested in the religious side of things, you can check out that. And all my Candle in the Dark shows are uploaded there as well.
When do you do your radio show?
Well, ADX Files I still do ADX Files, and that is usually once a month. And again, that's just on Mixcloud now. And Candle in the Dark is on. It comes up Sunday at midnight. Sundays at midnight.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just focuses
you,
more.
Alison, for coming on.
Okay. Okay. I was just going to say it focuses more on supernatural. It focuses more on supernatural religion. So people can, if they're interested in that.
Well, thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, so nice you have been coming on the show. It's been quite a while. So it's been worth you coming on the show. My guest on Friday, the 15th, is John Ventura. He's been on board quite a couple of years ago. But he's a great guest and a good speaker as well. Steph just says, great show and great guest. We'll definitely check your podcast, Alison.
Thank you very much.
Steph.
Thank you, Steph.
And thank you, Shane. See you later, Shane. And I'll catch up with him sometime.
Yes, do. He'll look forward to that.
Yeah, interesting topic. A great guest. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, thank you again. Cat's making an appearance. Right.
You made an appearance at the last minute.